The first reel clearly depicts an ape-like creature breakouting through the canopy.
Wait, you didn't see it? Tim, tell me you got that.
I think so. It was far away, but I think so.
Damn it, you didn't see it at all? That was an ape. That was a goddamn ape.
Don't believe what you see, don't.
Recently, I discovered that the Amazon is beautiful, diverse, and absolutely horrifying. Turn on a light because it's about to get dark as we discuss some of the most terrifying Amazonian discoveries to date. Up first on our list, we have the incredibly bizarre appearance of a massive humpback whale in the heart of the Amazon jungle. No, I'm not kidding. A humpback whale was legitimately found washed up on land 50 feet away from the nearest ocean. And how it got there? Honestly, no one really knows. In 2019, the 36-foot, 10-ton animal was discovered far from its natural habitat in the undergrowth of the jungle. It was located after scientists were alerted of a large gathering of scavenger birds spotted in the jungle. There are a couple theories as to how or why the whale ended up where it did, none of which really do it for me, but I'll share them with you so you don't feel left out. The first theory is that the 10-ton whale was thrown out of the water and into the woods by rough seas after floating too close to the shores of Ayoreo Beach, which is strange because whales are not usually found along the north coast of Brazil during February when the specimen was found. Not only that, but you're really telling me rough tides threw a 10-ton whale 50 feet into the jungle? Yeah, I'm just not buying it. Another theory is that some kind of mysterious alien force dropped the poor guy there, which honestly might actually make more sense at this point. But as always, when I can't figure something out, I'd love to know what you guys think. Next on the list, we have the boiling river of the Amazon, the perfect spa date location for someone you really don't like. The river's name is Shanai Timpishka, and it is said to be the home of an ancient Amazonian water spirit. Located in the heart of the central Peruvian Amazon, the river flows at a temperature of up to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, 93 degrees Celsius, for just shy of 4 miles. The waters range from quite shallow all the way to 16 feet deep, and the widest point of the lake is 80 feet across. The river's heat comes from thermal vents, and while hot springs are not unheard of in this world, the magnitude of Shanai makes it a record-breaking find. Something else has also set this river apart from others found in the past. Generally, thermal rivers are heated by volcanic activity underneath the earth below the waterways, but that is not the case for this hot giant, which is heated solely by the earth's geothermal energy that escapes through cracks in the floor of the riverbeds, warming up the waters. Good for swimming? Absolutely not, but you could always make a cup of tea. Next on the list, we have the Goliath bird eater, and heads up, it's a spider, and yes, it does eat birds. The Goliath is a massive tarantula. Its body measures in at about 5 inches, and it has a leg span of up to 11, which makes this thing certified nightmare fuel. The animal is, let's discuss how it avoids becoming someone else's. The Goliath has pretty bad eyesight, but it does have highly sensitive leg hairs that can sense vibrations from all around. When the spider notices a predator is getting too close, it will rub its legs together, releasing the tiny harpoon-like hairs, which are tipped with stinging barbs, into the air, irritating predators' skin and eyes, strongly encouraging them to find a different meal. Also, they can lay between 50 and 150 eggs at a time, which is just awesome. Next on our list, we have the vampire wasp, a large-headed parasitic animal that... Next up, at our halfway point, we have an animal absolutely no less terrifying than the rest, going by the name of T-Rex leech. And it was discovered, drumroll please, inside someone's nose. Also known as the Tyrant leech king, this animal can grow to be just under 2 inches. Of course, as a leech, it survives. Moving past our halfway point today, we have the giant centipede, which can grow up to 12 inches. Yay! This large and absolutely horrifying animal has a body that is composed of 21 to 23 distinct sections, with each section having its own pair of legs. Quick maths, that's 42 to 46 pokey little yellow legs. The animal generally feeds on insects, snails, and worms, and it does so by utilizing their quick speed to catch their prey and then biting down hard with its 2 front legs tipped with large spikes that work like pinchers. The spikes then administer a paralyzing venom to its prey, rendering it, well, screwed. I'm gonna ease your minds for a moment and let you know that these guys aren't really interested in attacking humans. Now that the moment's over, I will let you know what happens on the rare occasions these guys do decide to stray from their straight and narrow. The bite of a giant centipede can cause a person to experience headache, chest pain, heart tremors, nausea, and vomiting. Super cool!
10. City of Giants. We often talk about aliens being responsible for building great monuments like the pyramids, but did we ever consider it might be giants? In 2012, something was discovered deep in the Amazon that might suggest just that. A group of researchers, paired with a team of local guides, discovered what appears to be the remains of a large city close to the Ecuador side of the forest. At the center of the city was a large stone pyramid, 80 meters tall, with a flat area on top which held many artifacts. Scattered around the area were many things like old pottery and, most curiously, massive stone tools. They appeared to be much too large and heavy for any average-sized human to ever have been able to use. The government of Ecuador ruled that the formations were just naturally occurring, but the researchers heavily dispute this, saying that due to the rectangle-shaped bricks, cement-like bonding material, and perfectly circular holes, it can't possibly have been caused by nature. Instead, they, and others, believe that this was a city built by giants long ago. What you believe is up to you. Number 9. The Mapinguary monster. There are many different tribes scattered throughout the Amazon, some without contact to each other, and some without contact to even the outside world. Yet one thing that they all have in common are their stories of a large 7-foot-tall rainforest beast, similar to many cultures' depictions of Bigfoot. The creature is described to be bulletproof and having long hair. It apparently also has a smell that is so strong it makes hunters dizzy. These stories are so widespread and similar that many researchers have gone out in search of the monster, with no luck so far. Some scientists say that this is likely just a legend passed down for centuries, dating back to when giant land sloths roamed the forests, but local people believe it to be a spirit that will kill those who hunt more than their fair share. Number 7. The Potoo bird. Throughout the Amazon rainforest lives a bird known as the common Potoo bird. If it's so common, then what makes it so scary? I mean, besides its face. First, let's mention these birds' tendency to always be found in pairs of two, a male and a female. Because of this, legend goes that there were 2 children, a boy and a girl, living with their father and stepmother. The stepmother was evil and greedy, wanting to gain all of her husband's inheritance, so she convinced the man to abandon his children within the forest to die. He succeeds, leaving them lost in the forest with no hope for them to find their way out. However, the mother spirit of the forest took pity on them and adopted the 2 as her own children, making them into birds. Stories go that the call of the Potoo bird sounds like children calling out in anguish, desperate to escape the forest and return to their family. If you think this legend sounds a lot like Hansel and Gretel, you'd be right. This one just contains a lot less candy and witches. Number 6. Dangerous animals. Well, we've somehow made it this far without mentioning the many scary and terrifying creatures hiding within the depths of the forest. Life in the forest has evolved these creatures to have many unique and frightening abilities in order to survive. Let's start with perhaps one of their most famous, piranhas. Piranhas live in the Amazon River basin and are known for their incredibly strong and razor.
And we're starting off with the Sentinelese tribe, who live on North Sentinel Island in the Bay of Bengal. This is often referred to as the most dangerous island on Earth. Not only is it wrong to intrude on someone else's home for ethical reasons, but here it's also very dangerous. The Sentinelese are known to be very protective of their land, and people have met unfortunate ends after getting too close. The island is completely off limits to outsiders, but there's a recent case involving a man named. Next on the list we have Amazon tribes in Brazil. This image here was taken in 2008. It's pretty amazing. Clearly see 3 tribespeople, 2 who are pointing arrows right at the camera. This image, as well as many others, were taken as part of a project carried out by the National Indian Foundation, part of the Brazilian government, involved in the policies relating to Uncontacted. Carlos do Reyes Morales Jr. made a statement about these images, which were captured near the Javari River Valley, stating, "We did the overflight to show their houses, to show they are there, to show they exist." He also discussed how these tribes are under threat from illegal loggers in Peru, going on to say, "What is happening in this region of Peru, is a monumental crime against the natural world, the tribes, the fauna, and is further testimony to the complete irrationality with which we, the civilized ones, treat the world. And now we move on to Peru to discuss the Mapinguary tribe, also known as the Namol. Couldn't find a proper pronunciation of that, but the term Mashko translates to wild or savage, so definitely a more respectful term, which loosely means brothers and sisters or kin. They're a hunter-gatherer tribe that lives in the Manu National Park in Peru. They've actively avoided contact with outside. Around 2011, the tribe began being spotted a bit more often, reaching out to missionaries, tourists, and other locals for assistance. They started asking for food and tools, which puts the Peruvian government in a bit of a tough spot. It's important to remember that uncontacted people like this are very vulnerable, as they haven't built up the immunities we have to like all the diseases and illnesses that are common anywhere outside of their isolated communities. Next, we have the Taramona of Bolivia. This is an uncontacted tribe that lives in the upper Madidi and Heath rivers. In 2016, there were reports of encounters between workers involved in an oil exploration near the Peruvian border and this uncontacted tribe. The Bolivian State Oil Company, which had subcontracted the exploration work to BGP Bolivia, a subsidiary of a Chinese oil corporation, denied having these encounters at first. In August and September of 2016, workers clearing tracks through the forest started coming across footprints, broken branches, and empty tortoise shells, all showing there were people living out there. Then on September 17th, workers were surprised when they heard shouts from people nearby. BGP postponed work in the area and withdrew the workers. Then, a couple nights later, workers in their camp were surrounded by tribesmen believed to be from the same uncontacted group. Another indigenous group called the Takana, who also live in the region, had previously warned against oil exploration, saying that it was a threat to the then uncontacted Taramona, but the president of the Bolivian State Oil Company denied the existence of an uncontacted tribe, stating, "The facts have been twisted. We will carry on with our work." This oil exploration would involve cutting hundreds of tracks through the forest and more than 61,000 small underground explosions in the Amazon's uncontacted frontier. With all the noise and workers, there was a very real risk of unplanned contact, not to mention encroaching on their home and endangering very vulnerable people. Again, exposing them to even common illnesses and diseases like the flu and measles could have killed them. Next on the list, we head back to Brazil to talk about the Kuikuro. This tribe has also been known to be very territorial, but for good reason. This indigenous tribe lives in the western Amazon basin. They choose to live in total isolation from the modern world. Their FUNAI, Brazil's Agency for Indigenous Affairs, are the only group to have successfully made peaceful contact with the Kuikuro. They first tried in 1972, but that failed. Made some headway. The Kuikuro's main tribe, which is about a few hundred strong, separated from a smaller group and is still in complete isolation, but the smaller band have interacted with neighboring settlements and FUNAI employees over the years. FUNAI assists the tribe, giving them immunization shots and regular checkups. They've also established a national park to protect the Kuikuro's land from logging. Their goal is to preserve the tribe's way of life.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the peanut head bug. Of course, there is a scientific name for this bug that certainly makes it seem more sophisticated, but the peanut head bug definitely sounded a lot more fun. These guys love to live in tropical forests and can be found in Mexico as well as both Central and South America. Okay, so there's a few crazy things going on with this bug, so let's start off with the elephant in the room, which would be the peanut head. This bug reaches a length of up to 85 to 90 millimeters, with its head being as long as 10 to 15 of those millimeters. Other than being shaped like a peanut, this bug has false eyes that resemble that of a lizard or a serpent, which of course acts as a deterrent to predators. When being attacked, this bug will also spread its wings, which will then display another yellow pair of much larger false eyes, as well as releasing a terrible smelling substance. I feel like all of those traits have definitely qualified this bug to be on today's list, but let's just add one more for good measure. These bugs will also knock their heads on a hollow tree in order to create vibrations for mates. Okay, now I'm really done talking about the peanut head bug. In our number 9 spot today, we have the walking tree. Okay, so these trees got their name because of a myth surrounding them that would suggest they are able to walk. I mean, extremely slowly, but that's what it would seem. As cool as that would be to imagine trees roaming around the forest floor while humans aren't around, these trees aren't actually walking, of course, but what is happening is still pretty cool and definitely worth talking about. Basically, these trees just have a really amazing root system. Firstly, these trees look like they're almost on some kind of stilts, which isn't necessarily the most usual thing to see, but it's just all a part of their roots. It isn't quite clear why these trees appear this way, and there have been many theories as to why, but none have been proven yet. The walking myth comes from the fact that it is believed that as conditions on one side of the tree improve, the tree will be more likely to be regrowing near that side and will allow the roots on the opposite side to kind of just die off. This of course could potentially lead to very minimally small movements over an extended period of time, but it still makes sense as to where the story may have come from. The trunk is used in the construction of houses and other structures, as well as hunting spears, and the inner parts of the stilt roots are used as a male aphrodisiac. This tree produces a yellow fruit which is edible as well. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Brazilian grape tree. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far, because it really helps us out. This tree is a slow growing evergreen tree that features salmon pink leaves when it's young, before they turn green as it matures and gets older. That's not the only strange and interesting thing about these trees, however, as they grow their grape-like fruit right on the trunk, which isn't the most normal thing for trees. These fruits are purplish black and can be eaten raw, or they can sometimes be used to make jam. While this tree is very adaptable, in its preferred climate, this tree can flower and fruit up to 5 or 6 times a year. The most common diseases that affect these trees are rust, canker, dieback, and fruit rot. So while there's a lot about these trees that are of course similar to other trees in general, this one definitely has some unique features that landed it a spot here today. In our number 7 spot today, we have the zombie ants. Okay, this one might be small scale, but it is truly straight out of a horror movie. There's a type of insect pathogenic fungus that is commonly found in tropical forest ecosystems. This fungus infects a certain kind of ant, and once infected, this ant basically turns into a zombie. Good news is the ant doesn't suddenly go around eating others of its kind, but it is still being controlled and manipulated by this fungus. The ant will leave their nest in usual trails and head for the forest floor, which has better conditions for fungal growth. From there, the ant will then bite and attach itself to a major vein on a leaf and basically just stay there until it dies, which is usually around 4 to 10 days. During these days, the fungus will start to basically sprout out of the ant's head so as to be prepared to infect the next unsuspecting creature. Okay, that one might have been the grossest one on this list. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Amazon rings. This discovery was made by archaeologists, and while not much is really known about it, it was a discovery that did change what we once believed. So basically, a bunch of ditches were found in the landscape of the Amazon. Most of them are round, but there are also other shapes. It's unclear what they were used for, but the theories range from defense to drainage to maybe even ceremonial or spiritual reasons, but the coolest thing about these rings is that they are older than the Amazon forest itself. It is so unbelievable to see these ancient relics of our past civilization, and considering how we couldn't live without the Amazon rainforest, it's crazy to think of a time when it didn't even exist yet. Unfortunately, this discovery only happened because of the ongoing and devastating deforestation that plagues the Amazon and those who live in it every single day.
At number 9, we have medicine. Because the Amazon has so many different things living inside of it, it has offered us the ability to experiment with some substances that are unique to that area. And some of the stuff that we pull out of the massive jungle could be used to make medicines to cure all sorts of diseases. The key to stopping hangovers could be locked away in the lush green. Imagine you could party all night and then wake up the next day feeling like you got a full 8 hours, even though you only slept for 20 minutes on your buddy's couch before you had to go to work. Whoever made that discovery would be a hero. It's estimated that up to 1/4 of the world's base source of modern medicine would be lost if we lose the Amazon. Like, imagine you're at a party with 100 people and 25 of them catch on fire. Now this party for sure sucks, and someone please call 911. At number 7 we have loss of money. I mean, if there's one way we can try to convince these massive companies to stop tearing down trees, it's definitely with even more green. The main reason that the rainforest is being torn down is because the land is converted for commercial use. These big companies come through with big ugly trucks and rip out all the beautiful natural foliage so they can repurpose the land for rubber trees, palm oil trees, and even grazing areas. I would hate to see what their homes look like. I'm sure they suck at decorating. They probably took out all the natural light and then replaced it with neon frame pictures of their own. But these companies don't realize that in the long run they are making way less money. It's thought that in the pharmaceutical industry alone, the rainforest is worth about $150 billion. The global rubber industry, even including everything outside of the rainforest, is only worth $26 billion. And the palm oil industry, even including all the stuff outside the rainforest, is only worth $60 billion. The money gained doesn't even come close to the amount of money that's being lost. Y'all are just being stupid, man. You gotta think about long-term growth. At number 6 we have climate change. Yeah, we already talked about this in the intro, but it's kind of a big deal, so I'm going to talk about it again. If we burn down the whole Amazon, climate change is going to get worse, and then the flood will kill us all, or lack of food, or cannibals. Any of them really. Now, part of me thinks that the government has a carbon gun hidden away in Area 51 that can suck all the carbon out of the air and save the planet in like 20 minutes, and that this whole climate change thing is just something to distract us from the fact that the Clintons are so powerful they can kill anyone at any time. But I'm not willing to bet all my chips on that just yet. For now, I'm gonna hope that not burning down the Amazon will save us. And it can. The Amazon is a carbon sink, which means it sucks a bunch of carbon out of the air. The thing is a giant scrub brush for the atmosphere. 40% of the world's carbon is absorbed by the world's forests. That's a lot. Imagine you're at a party with 100 people, and then 40 of the people there are actively working to shrink their carbon footprint. That would be a pretty woke party.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have pink dolphins. There's a few weird things going on with these guys, but let's start with the most obvious, which is of course their color. These residents of the Amazon River are the largest of all river dolphins, and adults end up acquiring a strange pink coloring, which is more prominent in the males. Scientists aren't exactly sure why these guys are pink or why their color comes later in life, as they are born with a more gray color that is usually expected of dolphins. There are of course theories as to how they get their colors, however, with the most common being the thought that the color is brought on by scar tissue that results from either rough games or fighting with other pink dolphins or predators. I said at the beginning of this point that they are strange for a few reasons, and while their super unique and gorgeous color is one, the other has less to do with them and more about a very interesting legend that surrounds them. Legend goes that these dolphins actually transform into very handsome men in the evenings, and during this time they hypnotize and seduce young women before turning back to dolphins again near sunrise. The origins of this myth are rooted in some pretty dark cover-ups, so I think it's best if we just lay that one to rest and let these dolphins not take the blame for humans' awful behavior. In our number 8 spot today we have Victoria amazonica. This water lily is one of many abnormally large things that can be found in the Amazon rainforest, and it is found in the shallow waters of the Amazon River basin. These lilies are not only the world's largest water lily, but they can also hold the weight of an adult human. They will begin to flower as the sun sets and take up to 48 hours to completely open, and they are absolutely beautiful. These flowers are not only super strong and super beautiful, but as they open they also release a wonderful scent, which leaves me wondering if there's anything they can't do. One thing to be careful of though, if you encounter one and decide to step on it, it is that their leaves have thorns to protect them from predators, so watch out for those. Actually, on a second thought, just because they can hold a human doesn't mean we have to step on them at all. Let's just admire their beauty and strength from afar and let them just be lilies like they're meant to be. In our number 6 spot today we have the bullet ant. Before I dive into this one guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far. I'm sure the bullet ant is one creature on this list that many of us know about, but that certainly doesn't mean it isn't very strange. These creatures are obviously obviously ants, but with one feature that makes them unlike others of their kind. They are the world's largest ant, which is cool, but their name is where things get a little crazy. Some people believe they are named for their size, as they are roughly the size of a bullet, but it is much more widely speculated that they are named because of the fact that their sting feels like getting shot by a bullet. I have not seen a bullet ant in real life, or been bit by one, and also haven't been shot, so I cannot confirm any of these things, but that's just what the internet tells me. The pain is said to last for 24 hours and causes waves of burning, throbbing, and all-consuming pain, which sounds like something I absolutely do not want to experience. Maybe these guys are where the term small but mighty comes from, considering their bite is considered to be one of the most painful things a person can experience. I think I might try my best to stay away from them, even though it's unlikely I'll die from a bullet ant. I'm just not taking any risks, and I'd rather not go through that kind of pain if I can avoid it. In our number 5 spot today we have Rafflesia. Okay, remember how I said that there's a bunch of abnormally large things that can be found in the Amazon rainforest? Well, here's another one just to prove I wasn't lying. This flower is the world's largest flower, but it also has no roots, no stems, and no leaves, and instead lives as a holoparasite on the vines of a tetrastigma, which is a genus of plants in the grape family. This flower is very similar to fungi, and the only identifiable feature that is distinctly plant-like are the huge flowers, but even those are unusual, of course, due to their unbelievable size, as well as their reddish-brown color. One more strange part about these huge flowers is their smell, which apparently is comparable to rotting flesh. These flowers are also apparently on the verge of extinction, so between that and the smell, I feel like this might just be a flower to stay far, far away from. In our number 4 spot today we have the decoy building spider. Okay, I do not like spiders, so I really didn't want to include any on this list, but I absolutely had to once I found out about this small but mighty creature. These decoy building spiders are exceptionally small but super smart. These spiders only measure to be about 5 millimeters in length, but you might see a much larger spider hanging out in a web they created. This might sound alarming, but this spider is actually a decoy that the small spider built out of various materials such as food scraps, debris, and even their own old shed skin. It might not be the most beautiful work of art, but that is an unbelievable defense mechanism for such a tiny creature. These spiders were actually only discovered pretty recently, so not too much is known about them, as there still needs to be a ton of research done. It is however believed that this is a feature that has evolved in this particular spider, so it is possible that we only recently discovered it because it might be a newer feature. But the Amazon rainforest does hold many, many living creatures that we have yet to identify, so who really knows? All in all, this spider is very unique and strange, and basically the Michelangelo of spiders. In our number 2 spot today we have this plastic-eating fungi. This is a fungi that could help us solve one of the world's most pressing issues, which is the overpopulation of plastic. We have way too much plastic on this earth and virtually no way to get rid of it, but this discovery could help us fix that. This is the very first fungus ever found that can support itself on polyurethane in anaerobic conditions, which means that it not only can consume plastic, but it also does not require oxygen for growth. In fact, oxygen may even affect it negatively, which could make it a perfect species to help remove plastic from our oceans and other places with little to no oxygen. This is a fairly new discovery, which means it of course is still in the research phase. It will require more time before we are exactly sure how to best utilize its incredible properties, but this may be the solution to one of humanity's biggest questions and problems. And of course, this isn't a ticket to just start throwing plastic in the oceans, and should serve as a reminder to us all that our Earth is full of unbelievable things, and if we stopped ruining it for a second, we might be able to realize its full potential and see just how lucky we all are to have such a beautiful planet. In our number 1 spot today we have silkhenge. Okay, we already talked about one spider that was actually pretty cool, and begrudgingly I have to talk about another one because it also is equally as unbelievable, but here's the strangest part about it. We don't even actually know what the spider is. There is some kind of spider that is making what is referred to as silkhenge. This piece of spider art was first discovered in 2013 by Troy Alexander, who posted a photo of it on the internet asking for help in identifying it, but no one could help because it's a totally unknown phenomenon. phenomena. These structures are created by spiders and help with reproduction because they're actually protecting eggs. There's one main spire that is constructed of spider silk, and that is where the eggs are contained, and then surrounding that spire is a sort of circular fence that is also made of spider silk. The name comes from its similar appearance to Stonehenge, and no one knows what kind of spider is making these insane structures, or if it's a multitude of different kinds of spiders. Either way, it certainly is one of the most astonishing things being created by a tiny, mysterious creature. Hopefully one day we find out the creators of these sculptures so we can give them the proper credit they deserve.
At number 5, we have displacement of indigenous people. This is probably one of the saddest parts about this whole list. There are people who have made the Amazon their home for centuries, and if it burns down, where are they supposed to go? That is their land, and they've made a life that isn't so easily changed. You don't go from living in a tribe in the Amazon, hunting with a bow and arrow, to working at Walmart and putting money into a tax-free savings account. There's a lot of people who rely on the rainforest to survive. Around 31 million people either live in or off the Amazon. The people who live in these areas need the land to live. They need the areas for food, and for some of them they haven't been exposed to outside communities. Because most of us are filthy animals and carry a bunch of diseases, we have way more bacteria on us than any of these tribes have ever seen. So when these indigenous people come in contact with us, sometimes they can die just from the exposure to these new diseases. They don't have a natural immunity to them. There's not vaccines in the deep dark corners of the rainforest. At number 4, we have major damage to the ocean. If we actually don't stop the horrific act of burning down the rainforest like joints at a party, the carbon levels are going to skyrocket, which we kind of already covered, but this won't just affect the atmosphere. Some of the carbon will get absorbed into the ocean, which means the ocean will become more acidic. If you don't know what that means, don't feel bad. The only reason I know what it means is because I had to look it up for this video. Now, if the ocean becomes more acidic, then most of the animals can't live in there. We're gonna see a mass extinction of sea life. Some stuff will be able to survive, but so many fish are gonna die a horrible death of swimming in an ocean that's too acidic. If a ton of fish die out of nowhere, well, it's probably gonna lead to famine and every good fish and chip restaurant closing. That means no more sushi, no more oyster bars, no more Red Lobster. Well, I mean, Red Lobster could stay open on the Cheddar Bay biscuit alone. Every time I go, I eat like 15 of them, even though they clog my colon up like concrete in a drain pipe. But if we destroy the rainforest, say goodbye to seafood. At number 3, we have erosion. So if the Amazon gets destroyed, there's now going to be a massive plot of land that used to be held together by vegetation. Now that all that vegetation is gone and all that land is loose, like your stool after Taco Bell, and what does loose stool do? It flows, baby. Oh, it flows fast. And that's what that loose stool land is going to do. This will cause mudslides and a whole bunch of other natural disasters. On top of that, the rainforest is what fertilizes the soil. So all that flowing earth will be unfertilized. And then when it smashes into farmland, it will make that soil unusable. Basically another situation that leads to massive famine where we all become cannibals and eat our friends. Number 2, we have evapotranspiration. A big word for my little brain. What the hell is evapotranspiration, you may ask? Well, it's when plants give off vapor from their leaves in the process of photosynthesis. This goes up into the atmosphere and makes clouds, and then it comes back down as rain. The whole thing is the circle of life. But you may think that it's not a big deal. How much water vapor comes off of plants and gets turned into clouds? Well, a lot. An acre of corn can produce 4,000 gallons of water vapor a day, and somewhere between 10 to 15% of water vapor in the atmosphere comes from plants. And this will stretch super far. The decrease in rainfall will stretch as far as the Sierra Nevada, and areas between the Amazon will be seeing a decline of 50% in rainfall. Areas like California have already seen the effects of deforestation in the form of drought, which leads to massive fires. So not only will we all be cannibals, but everything will be on fire. And number 1 on our list, it won't come back. This isn't something you can just fix by planting seeds. The whole thing would be gone for good. The Amazon rainforest is a delicate ecosystem that was formed 56 million years ago when the world was hot enough to create rainforests. So the conditions that it takes to create a beautiful ecosystem like that are gone. And we already covered how the soil would be crap, the rain would be gone, the plants and animals would all be dead. The rainforest would all be gone. So we get one shot at saving this thing, guys. Let's try to do it right.
In our number 5 spot today, we have Electrophorus electricus. This guy is way better known as an electric eel, despite it really not being an eel at all, and rather a knife fish. Until 2019, this was the only species in its genus, which is super cool. These guys have actually been reclassified several times because of the fact that they really are just quite unusual. They grow to be around 2 meters long and are a dark gray-brown color on their backs, but more of a yellow or orange color on their bellies. They have 3 main abdominal organs, the main organ, hunter's organ, and Sach's organ, which all take up about 4/5 of its body, but are responsible for the ability to produce electricity. Basically, they can produce either low voltages, which are used to sense their surrounding environments, or high voltages, which are used to detect prey and subsequently stun them. While this guy isn't a huge threat to humans, there have been a few documented instances of people dying from their electric shock, so I think this is one creature that maybe I'll just stay away from. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Tyrant king leech. These disgusting creatures were discovered quite recently, and I wish we never even knew they existed. These guys have 8 teeth, and their discovery came after one was found feeding on the mucous membrane of a girl who had recently bathed in the upper Amazon. Unlike other leeches, these guys only have 1 row of teeth, but they are disproportionately large. These horrifying things do not drop off their hosts after feeding, but instead will remain attached for days or even weeks. Because these guys prefer the mucous membranes, they aim for areas like the mouth, throat, and nose. Because of their small size, they aren't easily detectable at first either, but once attached, they can grow up to 7 centimeters, so surely they'd be noticeable by then. I'm not sure if these guys or the zombie ant fungus is worse.
Next on the list are the awa, who have had a lot of issues with loggers. There are about 350 members of this tribe, and around 100 have 0 contact with the outside world. Just like with all the tribes on this list, their isolation is very important to them, helping them avoid conflicts that have historically messed things up for them. And back in the 19th century, European settlers began clearing out their land, so the awa were forced out of their land, becoming mostly nomadic. Fast forward to the 80s, some awa moved to government settlements, but some have stuck to their traditional lifestyle, relying on their forest for everything they need. But in 1982, the Brazilian government got a massive loan, and part of the deal here was protecting the lands of certain indigenous groups, including the awa. This was crucial because their forests were being invaded by outsiders, and the tribe was in danger of disappearing completely. Now, it took the Brazilian government a whopping 20 years to actually do something about it, but thanks to pressure from groups like Survival International, the awa's land was officially marked as theirs in 2003. Sadly though, at that point their population had dropped pretty significantly because of encroachment and massacres. In 2011 things got even darker when illegal loggers burned a young member of the tribe alive who had wandered out of her village. This had been a warning to other indigenous groups. Between 2003 and 2010, around 450 indigenous people were killed, and investigators found loggers wrecking awa camps. The awa are facing the fastest deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon. Moving on to Ecuador now, we have the Tagaeri. This is one of 2 Huarani tribes that currently live in the Ecuadorian Amazon basin. Back in 1968, this group separated from the Huarani families because they didn't want to accept the influence of missionaries, and since then they've had minimal contact with the outside world and even other Huarani groups. In the 90s, some Huarani groups moved westward to escape some of the stuff going on that was encroaching on their land, like petroleum exploration and logging, and the Tagaeri were one of those groups. And they're very protective of their way of life. They do not put up with outsiders trying to encroach on them. They've attacked missionaries and anyone they see as threats to their isolation, and power to them. The tribe is very small. Of course, it's hard to say exactly how many there are, but it's estimated there's only about 20 to 30 members. Back to Brazil once again. Now we have the Kawahiva. The Kawahiva people are an uncontacted indigenous tribe in Brazil living in the Rio Pardo region of Mato Grosso. It's estimated that there are at least 4 bands of uncontacted Kawahiva with around 15 individuals in the region. This tribe is mostly nomadic, and they're very rarely seen even by other indigenous groups. Most of what's seen from this tribe is just stuff they leave behind, like arrows, baskets and hammocks, sleeping mats. There are concerns that loggers intentionally keep them on the run, and there have been laws put forward to try and protect the tribe, like the Rio Pardo Indigenous Area designated in 2001. Legal protection has often been ignored, unfortunately, in the past, but there were arrests made in 2005. Businessmen, loggers, and squatters were found encroaching on the Kawahiva's land, but no one was ever tried. Legal protection was reinstated in 2007 and then intensified in 2012, creating an official reservation with more protective laws put in place. Next on the list we have the Ayoreo. Now, most of this tribe now has contact with the outside world, but there is still a small group living in total isolation. There are around 100 uncontacted Ayoreo people, divided into 6 to 7 groups. 3 of these groups are in the northern region of the Gran Chaco, along the border of Bolivia and Paraguay, and the other 3 to 4 groups are in the southern region of the territory. The biggest threats to these isolated groups are cattle farming and deforestation, the sale of their territory, searches for oil, and missionaries who want to enforce their beliefs on them. There are officially laws that grant the tribe the right to own their own land that they live on, preventing people from entering or selling it, but their land still gets redistributed. Some landowners will deny that there are tribes living there. And finally, we have the many uncontacted tribes living in the remote rainforests of West Papua. Now, unlike uncontacted tribes in Brazil, who have government protection, with groups like Fungi, for example, there is no government protection in place for these tribes in West Papua. The human rights organization Survival International is one of the only groups petitioning to get laws in place to protect these tribes, wanting to raise awareness of their existence to help prevent encroachment on their land. At the same time, though, they also think it's important to keep details a bit vague, like their exact location and number of tribespeople. This can hopefully help prevent groups like missionaries from seeking them out.
Number 5. Amazon rings. The Amazon rings are famous massive circular ditches, sometimes up to 16 feet deep and just as wide. So how could these geoglyphs have appeared within the forest? The reality seems to be that these were created before the forest itself even existed. It's hard to imagine a time before the Amazon forest grew, but studies suggest that these rings were created long before the forest was. It's thought to be more remnants of life in the Amazon before the Europeans arrived, with an estimated 6 to 10 million people living in the area. It's unsure just what exactly these rings were used for, and some people have gone as far as to suggest that aliens left the markings in the ground behind, a sort of Amazon crop circle. It's unfortunate that the discovery of these rings was a direct result of the clear cutting and logging going on in the forest. Number 4. Lost cities. Even as recently as the 20th century, explorers have been venturing into the rainforest for supposed lost cities that have never been found. Some of those explorers even becoming lost, never to be seen again, like the tale of British explorer Percy Fawcett. As it turns out, scientists have discovered that these lost cities that so many went in search of likely did really exist, thanks to some high-tech helicopter remote sensing technology. It seems that there were massive cities that were abandoned only some 600 years ago, and it's believed that up to 2 million people lived in the rainforest at one point. The cities stretch for miles and include things like complex waterway systems and large conical pyramids. The true mystery is what happened to this civilization. How do entire cities disappear into the forest without a trace? As these cities were built with mud bricks and are almost completely destroyed, we may never know what really happened to them. Number 3. The Man of the Hole. One famous resident of the vast rainforest is someone you've probably never heard of before. He is known as the Man of the Hole, as no one knows his true name or who he really is. So why is he so famous? He's indigenous to the rainforest and is known to be the very last remaining member of his remote tribe. The rest of his people were killed by farmers and land grabbers who wanted to make use of the land that they'd been living on. As a result, he is the loneliest man in the world, no one knowing his language or how to communicate with him. And it seems as though he doesn't want anyone to anyways. He has attacked government officials who have tried to come close, living on his now protected territory, digging holes to hide in and capture animals, earning his name of the Man in the Hole. It's also thought that he may be making these holes to try and capture anyone who would dare get close to him. He has been caught on camera only a few times, showing us that he's still around. Number 2. El Tunche. If you ever, for some reason, find yourself walking through the rainforest and you hear a distant whistling sound, it would be wise of you not to seek it out, especially if you've been stomping on a few too many plants lately. That's because what you are hearing might be the call of El Tunche, a demon who wanders the forest, protecting the wildlife and condemning those who would harm it. If you haven't done any damage to the forest, then he'll probably just scare you off. But if you have, you might as well start running. By calling out, the demon is trying to entice you to whistle back and reveal your exact location to him. If you do so, El Tunche's call will grow louder and louder, following you wherever you go. Eventually, it invades your mind as you sleep, drawing you into madness. I think that's a good enough reason to start being a little bit kinder to our natural surroundings. Number 1. El Lobizon. A widespread legend across South America is that of El Lobizon. It is a werewolf-like creature that can be seen walking on all fours and also on its hind legs. Different from Western and Hollywood interpretations and depictions of werewolves, El Lobizon is not created through a bite, but instead born. Any 7th son that is born in an unbroken line of boys will become the creature, usually transforming around their 13th birthday. The stories have caused people to abandon, give up, or even kill their own 7th son. Every full moon, the boy will transform into the wolf-like creature, hunting down prey with unmatched speed and endurance. While just a legend, with a place as vast as the rainforest, who knows if El Lobizon isn't hiding in those darkest hidden corners.
Moving right along, we've got the world's most powerful electric eel, bear with me, Electrophorus voltae. It's a small, relatively docile animal. Oh wait, no, it's not. It's actually a 2 meter, 6 foot 7 inch long monster that can weigh up to 20 kilograms, which is 44 pounds. And it has sharp teeth on both its upper and lower jaws that it uses to tear apart its prey of small fish and shellfish. Don't worry, I know I buried the lead and I bet you're all dying to know just how electric this eel really is. Well, let me start off by saying the previously highest recorded voltage of an electric eel was 650 volts, which has caused fatal heart and respiratory failure in humans when shocked multiple times. This new guy's voltage is just a teeny bit higher, 210 volts higher to be exact. Simply put, this 860 volt electrical eel would cause a lot of damage. How much exactly? Well, we're not really sure yet, but I'll tell you this, I will not be the one to find out. If you guessed that next on the list we'd have another nightmarish creature capable of causing serious damage to those who come too close for comfort, give yourself a pat on the back because you're nailing it, as this next animal is exactly that. The Pyra, also known as the vampire fish, does not suck blood or insides of its prey, but it does have extremely large fangs that can grow to be up to 15 centimeters long. That's 5.9 inches. Almost half a foot of nightmare fuel. You might think there's some kind of saving grace here, but there's not. This animal is extremely fast and highly aggressive, considered to be one of the ultimate jungle predators. I guess we did have to even the playing field somehow though, as in recent years these feisty fish that measure in anywhere between 1.5 to 3 feet in length and weigh up to 20 pounds have become the catch of choice for fly fishers within the region. I hope you guys are doing alright, and I also hope you are not afraid of snakes, because if you are, this next one just might make your skin crawl. It's the green anaconda, aka the largest snake in the Amazon, reaching lengths of up to 30 feet, that's 9 meters, and diameters of up to 12 inches, 30.5 centimeters. And if you're still not impressed, these animals can weigh up to an astounding 550 pounds or 250 kilograms. These animals are members of the boa constrictor family, and although they have incredibly sharp teeth and powerful jaws, they are thankfully not venomous. But of course, they're incredibly strong, and they use their strength to crush their prey by curling up around it and restricting its airways, providing little chance for escape. The green anaconda is not at all a picky eater either, with an expansive diet of fish, reptiles, amphibians, tapirs, deers, dogs, capybaras, sheep, and whatever the heck else they can find, really. Luckily for us, attacks on humans are pretty rare, but not unheard of, and yeah, they can swim, like really well. So keep your eyes peeled for these masters of camouflage the next time you're taking a walk through the Amazon jungle. And finally, to finish us off today, we have the Amazonian bullet ant. Just a little guy with a lifespan of about 90 days, growing to be between just 0.07 to 1.2 inches long. Living in the humid lowlands of the Amazon rainforest, this demon creature has the most powerful sting in the world. Getting stung by this guy has been described as pure, intense, brilliant pain, like walking over flaming charcoal with 3-inch nails embedded in your heels. Oh my god, the Amazon needs to chill. Besides up to 24 hours of an intense amount of pain, symptoms of being stung by the insect include fever, nausea, trembling, and cardiac arrhythmia. So while you won't die, you will for sure feel like you're in hell until the symptoms wear off. If you guys want to hear something really wild, listen up. There are certain Amazonian tribes that use these ants in coming of age ceremonies, requiring young men to wear gloves filled with them for a total of 10 minutes in order to achieve status within their community. And in order to be considered a village warrior, they must complete the ceremony a total of 20 times. Thank God we made it. I know I'm not in the Amazon, but I will definitely be checking my sheets tonight after all of that. If you had a favorite animal from the list, let me know in the comments. I've been your host, Hannah Thompson, and I will see you in our next video.
Want to see more videos like this one? Check out this video next. It's about strange anomalies that were found in the Amazon rainforest. We have delved deep into the mysteries of the jungle to see what we could find, and the answers might shock you. What are you waiting for? Click the video now to find out more.